Today let's talk about the squat, the importance of the squat, proper mobility and technique for the squat, and how to address your squat if you have certain limitations preventing you from having a confident and comfortable squat. Okay, so the squat is a movement pattern that is arguably one of the most functional and important movements for us to be able to perform for daily function, performance of daily activities, longevity, quality of life, the list goes on. Okay, every single day of our lives, whether we want to or not, we are going to be squatting. And so if we have any limitations, this can be a real issue for us. I want to quickly address proper squat technique, and then while we go through that, I'm going to show some important aspects of a squat, and if we lack that component, how it might affect our squat. So first of all, the squat, as simple as it is just being able to sink down with our hips into a squat position. In order to be in this position, there's a couple of things that we need. Number one, and arguably the most important, is our ankle mobility. Okay, we need proper ankle mobility so that our knees can comfortably come past our toes without us falling back and losing our balance. So if we don't have adequate ankle mobility, you might see somebody in a posture sort of like this, folded forwards. Knees are barely in line with the toes. I am locked out on my hips, and this in general is not a very strong position to be in, okay? Especially if we ever start to add load to our squat. The second issue that we often might see comes from the hip and pelvis, and this could just be inadequate mobility, which is in the form of a rounded back. So if we don't have the ability to be able to flex our hips and have a nice neutral spine, okay, we're going to be bottoming out and we're going to be rounding. So let's work on a couple of drills to address some of these problems to then get a comfortable squat. So if we lack ankle mobility to be able to sink down low enough into our squat, we find ourselves falling forward because we can't let those knees sink forward. The issue oftentimes comes from our calves. Okay, so oftentimes the issue could be really tight calves that are not allowing us to enter that flexion because they're so tight they're pulling on our foot. And it can also be weak tibialis anterior. It's that muscle that pulls that toe to our nose. Okay, so in order to address that, what we can do is, first of all, stretch that calf. So my back leg right now, I'm pushing my heel into the ground, and I'm driving my knee forward. Okay, this leg isn't super important. I'm stretching this back leg. Heel in the ground, stretching out that back foot. I want to hold that stretch for 30 seconds, 3 times. 90 seconds total on both sides. Once we've stretched out those calves, the issue still comes to the tibialis anterior, which might be weak. So what we can do is lean against that wall, have our feet about a foot away from the wall, and we're going to bring our toes up, and then let them sink back down. Toes up, and sink back down. Okay, I'm pulling up, I'm holding, and then I'm gently lowering them back down. So I'm having to control them on that way down. So that calf stretch and that tibialis anterior raise combined should hopefully help to increase our squat depth if our ankles are the limiting factor. If we find that it's our hips that are the problem from the squat depth, meaning we're rounding excessively in our low back or in our hips, then simply all we need to do is stretch out those hips and work on our ability to pull our knee to our chest. Okay, so as simple as it sounds, all we're going to do is lay down on the floor. We're going to take our hip in our hand. We're going to work on having a nice long back, and you're going to pull your knee into your chest. So we're trying to avoid that kind of rounded position so that being lying down helps to assist us and keep ourselves nice and long. We're just going to pull that hip up into our chest. Again, you know the drill. We're going to hold it 3 times 30 seconds on both sides. The other thing I want to address about hip posture is our foot placement. Foot placement will affect where our knees and therefore where our hips end up moving during a squat. Some people have different hip angles that affects their placement. So for example, some people might find that their best, most comfortable position to squat in is pretty narrow. I'm about shoulder width apart. This is where I find my most comfortable squat position to be. Some people, however, their hips are a bit wider, and they find that in order for them to squat, they need to be a little bit wider. For me, this is not too comfortable. I can do it, but I'm not quite as low as I was if I bring my feet in. So to find out where you need to be for your squat, we can again come down into this lying posture, bring your knee to your chest, and what we can do is pull it into the middle, and then start to round our hip out to the side and back in. And where we find we can bring our knee up the highest without the most resistance, that is generally where our knee should be. So if I hold my leg here, I can bring my other leg up to match. What do you know? I can bring my knees up to my chest pretty high here. That's about my squat stance. The last piece of the squat that I want to address is our spinal posture. Because this is where our core comes into play. Okay, so you can think of the core as basically everything from the diaphragm down to the pelvic floor. You can think of that like a cylinder. So if the diaphragm is the top of that cylinder and the pelvic floor is the bottom of that cylinder. What we want is a nice flat bottom, a nice flat top. This is a strong position. So you can play around with that position with your pelvis and with your rib cage. So we want that rib cage down and that pelvis neutral. Once we've found that position, you're going to take a deep breath in. You're going to hold that breath in your core, in your abdomen, create a lot of pressure, then initiate your squat. Come up, then breathe out. Thanks for watching. This has been an experiment of mine to start to provide some educational content on health, fitness, functionality, longevity. It is a passion of mine. I hope that I can reach a greater audience by making some of these short form, easy to digest videos. I'm a student currently, and I'm also working as a personal trainer. So I don't have a schedule for when these videos will be coming out. My goal is to have about one video per week, talking about various different movements or body concepts or functional concepts of the body. And my goal is to be able to give you some actual practical knowledge that you can use and apply to see greater gains in the gym or function in your everyday life. So please stick around for the next video, and thanks for watching.